Hey everybody, this is me, Undead Viking. I want to take some time out of your day to talk to you about this game. It is called End of the Line. This is the rulebook. I don't have a box for it, I apologize, but I love it. It says, The Family Safety and Survival Guide. So the game is about having your family of 5, that is mom, dad, sister, brother, and your little dog, and you're trying to keep them alive for as long as possible. Basically outlasting the other families that are trying to do the same thing. Because this is a post-apocalyptic situation, you have a very scant few resources to begin with, but as time goes on, those resources will be eaten up by the different horrible things that are happening, like mutants or zombies or, cannibals running rampant and what have you. And you will need to go out and fight, basically, get in line and fight for ammo, fuel, food, and water, and also deal with the black market a little bit to try to make sure that you have the things that you need. Along the way, you're going to have to defend yourself against the plots and strategies of your opponents, and you will be screaming many oaths of vengeance as your family members die. It kind of almost sounded like Oregon Trail. You remember, it's like, I found fun giving my family names, if you will, and as they died, I was like, no, Johnny, why? So, but no, the game is a lot of fun. It hits on all cylinders for me just because of the fact that it is, the name of the company that is publishing is called Fight in a Box Games. It couldn't be more correct. This is a very confrontational game, and you definitely have to step over the bodies of the dead to claim victory. So let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you exactly why I found this game to be absolutely hilarious, absolutely fun, and pretty much just amazing. Alright, cool. You are looking at End of the Line, and let me just explain what you're looking at before I exactly show you how the game is played. Alright, so you can see there are 4 of these lines that are resources. You can see the cubes that you collect over there, and they have these numbers on there, and that's where you're going to be placing the members of your family in the hopes of collecting those resources: fuel, ammo, food, and water. There's also this is the black market. The black market allows you to trade resources for other resources that you don't have enough of. So pretty straightforward, but as you can see, they have no resources because the black market, you don't collect something, you trade something. Finally, at the bottom here, you have a graveyard, and that is when people die, and people will die in this game. You'll be placing them in these locations, like so. Now, as soon as you have dead people in this square and moving, from this way over to the right, but as soon as you have the same number of dead people as you have players, you will then fill up the next one and so forth. So in a 5-player game, if you had 5 dead people, or dogs count, so like if you had all green somehow died, and you in a 5-player game like so, and you put them there, then you would go into this one and start putting dead people in there. So if blue lost somebody, you'd have somebody there. Now the purpose of this is that as people die, these lines will close, and the first thing to close will be the black market, and you'll just turn it over to the closed side like this. And then it is fuel, and then it is the bullets, and then it is food. And you notice water is not on there. Water will stay open. You can always collect water, but obviously you need more than water. So if those things start closing out, you're most likely looking at the end of the world, or as you know it, as far as our saying sayonara to your family. Now, as I mentioned, you have a family. I might as well just show you those. So you have these meeples, if you will, and they represent the 5 members of your family. You can see you have Dad, you have Mom, you have Junior, and you have Sissy, and you have the family dog, and all of them are useful in their own way, and they all pretty much they're used to collect resources, or in the case of the dog, they're used for ulterior things, but also depending upon whether they're an adult or whether and their gender, that'll determine if certain cards or certain effects will happen to them. I'll explain that in just a little bit. So the way this works, and I'm jumping ahead just a little bit, but I just want to explain how the line mechanism works. The way it works is, like, you put a person on the spot on the line, and this will be done in player order, and you have like a first player token, which in this case, is this little card, and then of course that switches as the next round starts and what have you. and you put a player down, and then you are first in line for that. If you are first in line for one of these 4 lines, you get 2 cubes when it comes time to collect. However, there has to be somebody behind you. If you are the last person in line, and technically this person is the last person in line, you get nothing. You don't get to collect anything at all. In order for them to have a chance to collect something, somebody has to be behind them, and in which case now this person would be able to collect 2 food. Now, if that person had somebody behind him, this person would collect 1, and this person gets nothing. Then, if you had a dog behind you, so to speak, now the dog is last in line, and this person could collect 1 as well. That is one of the very big uses for the family pet. The pets normally can't collect anything. You couldn't put a pet over here and go like this, and the pets can't collect. The woof woof doesn't walk in and say, "Give me some bullets." They don't hand them out. So in this case, then nobody would be the first person in line. And in this case, this person wouldn't get anything either because they're the last person. Because there wouldn't be any collection in this line like so. Anyway, so that is how the collection works for the resource lines. Now the black market, if you are the first person in line, and you have somebody behind you like so, you get to do exchanges. The first person in line, everybody gets to do 1 as long as, once again, there is somebody behind you. But the first person in line gets to do an extra exchange. The exchanges are 1 for 2. You actually get better. So you could say if you had a bunch of fuel, you could trade in 1 fuel for 2 water, or 1 food for 2 ammo. You can't exchange 1 cube for 1 of like 2 different types. You got to take 2 of the same thing. Plus, if you get the extra exchange, you can't trade for what you get. Meaning, if you traded 1 fuel for 2 ammo, you couldn't turn around and trade an ammo for 2 food. It doesn't work like that. You would have to actually then trade, for water or food, what have you, with the extra turn. So that's how the different lines work. Now, that's all well and good, and that would be kind of, simple as far as the game is concerned. But because of the fact that you have a bunch of cards and different things that happen, such as calamities and what have you, the collection process will be greatly disturbed. So, in this case, what happens is each person is going to start with 4 cards that they're going to put in their hand. Later on, they'll be able to spend resources to get more cards. And the cards themselves come in 3 different types. And most of the cards just end up being something like this. This is a blue card, and these things just change the rules in some way. And I'll explain how the whole process of playing cards works. But so in this case, it says starting ladies first. Starting at the front, move all females forward in the current line until there are no non-females in front of them. And so this is this is a situation where, like, if you had, for example, like, let's say, you had the red had, the 2 people that like so, and then orange had their sissy and their mom like that, and they got to play, and orange got to play this card, the lady's first card. You would shove these 2, put to the end of the line, just like the name of the game, and so forth. And now, orange would be the one collecting the bonus fuel, and red wouldn't. Now, there's tons of cards that do certain things like this. There are tons of cards that you will be playing that do a lot worse things than just shoving people to the end of the line. But that is just an example of that type of card. Now, the second type of card is going to be green, like this, and this is a now card. You can play this in a lot of different ways. Most often, they're played in defense, and I'll explain how that works in just a little bit. But this is just one of those things where flee. Return home all of your current family members from the current line. One of the fun cards in the game, I shouldn't say fun, is that, like, you can send your dog to a line, but you actually send your dog to the line strapped up with explosives, and they'll kill everybody else that's in that particular location. Here you have a situation where you can play this card and you can take put your people back home, and thankfully they won't die. So that's, these are defense cards usually. And like now, basically they're called a now card because they are like a reaction. They interrupt play, if you will. Now the final card is these, they're white, and these are called law cards. Now at the very beginning of each turn, before you do any placement of any people or anything like that, you have a law phase where people, if they have a law card in their hand, can choose to play them. And I'm going to, once again, I'm going to show you how the cards are played in just a second, because there is actually a mechanism to it, and I want to make sure you see that. But laws are placed, so you can see here, this is valid only on the food line by soylent means. Remove all other laws from the food line. During law enforcement, kill the last human in line. During collection, all eligible characters collect 1 additional food. So basically, they kill whoever's there. The last human, remember, make sure you notice last human. So if there is like a dog that's last, that doesn't matter. It is the last human. They would die, and everybody gets extra food because you're eating that person. Now, when you play a law, once again, I will show you how this works. But when you play a law, you play it in one of these locations here. And I put these a little bit, they're usually a little further apart, but just because I needed to save some space, I did kind of push them close. But you put a law like so, and you can either play it face down or face up. Now, you play it face down, obviously, because you want the law to be a surprise. You want somebody to get killed because you know what you've placed. Now, you'll notice that this one says it's only valid in the food line. Now, if you really needed fuel or whatever, for whatever reason, you could place this like so on the fuel line. And as a bluff, as like a, oh boy, you better not go to the fuel line, never know what's going to happen. And then you could put your own people there and then flip it over and they realize, oh, it was just, to kind of scare us away from the location. But if you put it in the food line, you flip it over and it would actually affect during the time that you would reveal the law of that particular line. You'll notice that there are these 4 locations in each of these laws, but it is unlimited. You could keep placing laws forever. You also notice that there's only 8 spots as far as for the different lines. That is also unlimited. You can keep placing people straight off the board if that is the case. Probably won't be very often, but it isn't just limited to the 4 spots or the 8 spots that you see in front of you. So those are the 3 different types of cards. And one last thing before I actually show you the card playing mechanism of the game. There is a Calamity deck that is, you turn one of these cards over at the beginning of each round. In the first round, the Calamity doesn't take effect. You're going to use it just for the resolution order. And the resolution order, it tells you how to resolve which line first. And notice that if you've closed out the lines, of course, you would skip them in these situations. So you flip it over, and the Calamity, and this is the first round you wouldn't do it, but let's just say it is in the first round, you'd say, after the last line, all players must spend 1 fuel or 1 ammo. If you fail to do so, kill one of your family members. So you have to have at least 1 fuel or 1 ammo to spend so you can manage to, take care of the pesky zombies. It tells you to do the bullets first, the food second, the fuel third, and water fourth, and then the black market is always done last. So, and then you turn it over and you keep that in effect and you wait and see, and then at the end of the turn you will do what that does. Sometimes you will have cards like this that will have this ammo dump. Immediately all players spend all their ammo until the end of the round, close the ammo line. So you just, put this, you could flip the ammo line over, you could just put that over like so, to show that nobody could use the ammo line. You can tell that because of that little cross line that's over there. Now, there's ones that even will close multiple lines, like you can say, too fast, close all lines and open the black market. This is the only line this round. And so, like, if the black market was closed, you would open up just for that one round, and you'd be able to use it, but then you would shut it down again. So, the calamities are, it's an effect that, has, like, continues and throughout the turn that you're on, and you have to plan accordingly when you're placing your people on there. And it also tells you, the order in which those lines are played. All right, so the way it works, as far as every part of playing cards, like before you even start putting people out on the spots, you will have a turn of, it's called playing laws, or taking part of diplomacy, if you will. Each player has this. They have a pass card on the back, looks exactly the same as these cards here. And so you have the pass card in your hand, like so, and these are those 3 cards I had before. And they have them, and so if you wanted to play a law, what you do is you take your hand and you secretly, situate it so you'd have the law on top of it, like so. And depending on the first player, each person will then go ahead and they can, in this case, if you want to keep the law secret, you're not facing up, you'd say, I have a law. And then you go ahead and obviously you can't cheat and put something else out there. You can't play as a bluff. You can't play a blue or a now card as your bluff. So and you'd go ahead and place a law out on the board. Now, also, it should be noted that when you resolve laws, you resolve them at this spot moving to the right. So sometimes that the timing of the law actually matters a great deal. So each person then, you can reveal to show, like this, to show that you have a law if you want to hide it, and that's what we've done. And then we place the card on the board, and then it goes around the table. You start with the first player. Whoever's first player, they reveal and place a law. Or what happens is if they if you didn't put that in there. So like if you put the pass card first, what you do is that you turn the card over to show that you've passed, and then you put that face down, and so it goes around. And multiple people, like if somebody had like 3 or 4 law cards in their hand, which isn't quite likely, but if they did, they could keep playing those law cards out as they want. Now, the one thing about if you play a law card and put it down for taking part in diplomacy, you get a free card. You're able to look at it and see what it is, but you have to put it on the bottom of your deck. So in this case, like you've turned that over. You got a law card, you place it out there, you grab that other card, you put it on the bottom, and so you can't, like, if you get another law card, you can't look at it and go, okay, I'm going to play another one, you put it on top like so. You have to, put it on the bottom of your deck, and, so when you play a law, you give a card back, which is kind of nice, actually, which also pushes people to want to play their law cards, because they want to get more cards that are defense cards, or these action cards, so they can affect the lines that they've done. So once you get the law out, that's when you start placing the people in the different spots. I'm not going to place them out there. You can just envision that there will be a line or what have you. And then you just simply go to each line and resolve it. And so let's say there's a food line here. So let's say we had a situation with like that. And let me just put a little girl, and then maybe a dog, and then another little girl, and then a dog. So you had this line like there. And so you're saying, okay, we're going to do the food line. And so you would then, each person does the exact same thing again. They look at their hand of cards. We wouldn't have this law card anymore. Let's actually put, this food one out there like so. And so they look at their hand of cards, and they would decide. There's 2 things they can decide. The first thing to decide if they're going to play any of their action cards. And so in this case, they're going to play an action card. So they're going to play that, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to put their pass card next. And so when they turn it over, they're going to turn this card over first, then they're going to turn over their action. And then if they want to, they can go ahead and play, put any of their other cards that could be their defense cards, they could be used as reactions, because obviously they aren't in order here, and so you don't do that. So you take these and you would place those off to the side. So let's just say, and so you'd have your cards and you'd have your defense cards off to the side like so. Now, there are situations where your defense cards can get stolen from you, or they can be forced to be discarded. So it isn't always, it isn't foolproof to put your defense cards on the side, but you're just playing a risk, if you will, if it's worth it to have those available for you. And so then in turn order, everybody reveals a card, and then they're going to take those actions. So in this case, ladies first, starting at the front, all females move forward until there are no non-females in front of them. So you would just you'd go here and look, and you see there's this little girl, and so she goes to the front like so. And there's this other little girl, so they're going to go 1, 2 like that, and then everybody else moves back like so. And so then that card, and other cards would probably be played as well, but that card would affect that situation. And after all of the cards and everybody's done that, and so then the next time it comes around to you, you flip over your next card, you see you're passing like so. Then after all is said and done, then you would go ahead and start looking at resolving the different laws that are affecting them. A couple of quick things I just want to mention before I move on to the laws are that in order for you to actually play a card for the line that is being resolved, you actually have to have somebody in the line. You can't play something to affect the line if you haven't risked anybody to go get food. It also is the case for both the blue cards and the defense cards as well. So you can't use defense cards during this resolution or this process of playing those action cards to affect a different line, if you will. There are cards that will allow you to move characters from this line to another one. But you have to. You can only time you can play any cards are when you actually have something at risk, if you will. Now, okay, so when you move to the laws of the portion, you would then just turn these over and resolve them. And so this case, remember, it is this by soil means. And so because remember the little girls were behind, but maybe Orange was the one that put the by soil means and knew what was going on. First of all, if there's any other laws, it says we didn't have any, but if there was any other laws, you remove them. And then during the law enforcement, you kill the last human in line. And so the dogs are fine, but poor Dad here, he's purple. Dad from the purple family is going to be killed, and he's going to be processed into food. Everybody else will move up like so, and then you would just go ahead and reward the food. So everybody gets an extra food, and so the first person here would get 3. The next person would get 2, 2, and 2. Remember, the first person gets an extra one for being first in line. And so then they would collect the food, and these two gentlemen here, Orange Pop and Green Junior here, would be happy that Purple Dad was behind them, because then they survived. But then you'd go ahead and collect the food, and then you would go to the ammo line, and you resolve the ammo line the exact same way, and so forth until all of the lines are processed in that way. After you've done every single resource line and the black market line, you then will go ahead and check and make sure at that point if there has been you have enough dead people to close lines. You don't close lines in the middle of the round as people die. So then you wait in the end of the round. So if you had enough dead people, you'd close the black market and so on and so forth. And then after you've closed the necessary lines, you check to see if anybody has won. If there is a single person that still has like living members of the family, and they're the only person that has living members of the family, they've won end of the line. Their family has survived. Even if it's just your dog, you have survived and everybody else has died. The reason why you do that after all is said and done is because there are situations that these Calamity cards, they have effects that occur after the turn is done. So you check and see. This isn't a situation where the ammo line would happen and like maybe everybody got killed except for one person. You still go through the entire turn, and if after the entire turn is done, one team is still left kicking around, then at that point you have a winner. In a lot of cases, all the families will get wiped out in the process of a turn. That is a very, very common occurrence, actually. And that's probably one of my favorite ways for the game to end. But if that happens, obviously, then nobody has lived and everybody has died, and the apocalypse has claimed you all. But much to your great efforts in keeping your progeny going. So if there is more than one family still alive, you just reboot the whole thing. You go through the process of setting up another Calamity. And I forgot to mention, there is one process that after the first turn, you are able to then turn in resources to purchase cards. You do that by turning in resources that you have. One resource, like fuel, will get you 1 card. 1 ammo will get you 1 card. 1 food will get you 1 card. 1 water will get you 1 card. If you want more than 1 and you want to spend more than one thing, you have to double up. So 1 will get you 1 card, but 2 you have for another card, and then you'd have to spend 3 to get a 3rd card. So to get 3 cards of just using fuel, you'd have to spend 6 fuel to get 3 cards. So obviously, having a little bit of all of them is the best route to go, because cards are what keeps your family alive. It allows you to manipulate the lines, allows you to manipulate the way the laws and the way everything is resolved, but it also gives you those defense cards to keep your people alive as well. So you trade in your resources for cards at that point, and then you start it up, turn over the Calamity, and everybody's got their cards, and you just begin processing the next round, and you continue that until either one person, as I said, is left standing, or Apocalypse claims you all. So the game is a lot of fun. The company, like I said, is Fight in a Box. It is totally that. This is a knife fight in a telephone booth, as they say. It is a lot of fun. It tells a story. There are oaths of vengeance made, and cackles of maniacal glee as well. And it's just a heck of a lot of fun to play. But let me explain that a little bit further in my conclusion. All right, thank you very much for sitting through that and learning how to play End of the Line. The game is pretty simple. It is really, really straightforward. I mean, once you get the whole process of having the cards and setting up your deck for the reveal as you go around the table, there's basically two mechanisms of the game: placing your characters and placing cards. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's the resolution of those things that causes the game to have all the twists and turns and excitement and fun, and get that story, that theme driving the game, and you end up in a perfect place, mind you, that where you don't really care if you lose. I mean, you're kind of bummed out if your family gets killed off. And admittedly, yes, there is player elimination. Once your family is dead, you're no longer in the game. But trust me, you're not going to be alone for very long. And usually you can keep one or two people alive. It's actually easier, to keep them alive, because there's a lot of cards that say you need to spend one food for every member of your family. You need to spend a fuel for every member of your family. Things like that. And if you don't have a lot of people, you don't need a lot of stuff. So it's one of those cool things where it's like, yeah, you're kind of your family line's dying off, but at the very least, it's getting easier for them to get food and water, if you follow what I'm saying. It is the game isn't even really about kind of almost the resources, if you will. I play this game for the enjoyment of avoiding the daggers that are heading for my back, and making sure that while I'm doing that, I'm sidestepping and plunging a dagger in somebody's side as well. This is a game where you're going to be making deals with people and breaking them as quickly as they're made, but you have to watch out and make sure that you you bury somebody, because if you stomp on their grave and they're still alive, they will rise and drag you back down with them. But that's one of the things about the game that is fun. I mean, it's like you come out of the game laughing and joking and having a blast, even though, very likely, all of you were killed off. And that's kind of like what you're kind of hoping for anyway. When you get killed off, you're like, oh, I just want to make sure you die, and it isn't like a game where you're out of it, if you will, that like aren't going to be like paying attention to the game. You stay there and you're stuck there because you want to make sure that the person that put that shovel full of dirt on your grave joins you just the same, if you will. Now, there's one thing I didn't mention about the game, and I should have, and I apologize for that, is that the resources that you collect are secret. I don't have the little player shields or whatever. There wasn't enough room to kind of show them. But you do have like people don't know how much food and fuel and whatever you have. Plus, the resources are finite, because they aren't unlimited. So if you run out of them, you run out of them. And when you die, you take your stuff with you. You have a secret cache somewhere where all your food and fuel and whatever were kept. And so if you manage to have a big horde when they kill you off, you are that stuff is gone. And and so the thing about the resources is that when you spend them, they're gone. It isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, just throw them back in the mix. No, it gets chewed up. And that's why this is a game where, as the game progresses, it gets tougher and tougher. And even though, yes, you may have been eliminated, you are not in a situation where you're going to be lonely for very long, if you will. The game, for all the different rounds and all the different actions that happen, the game kind of resolves itself pretty quickly. I mean, after we kind of learned the game or anything like that, it lasted about an hour. And less with less people, obviously. But the cool thing, like I said, is that most of our games seem to end up without a winner. All of us died, which, like I said, I found to be funny. And it made those times when you actually did pull off a victory that much more delightful and wonderful. Not that I would know, since I have yet to win the game, but like I said, I've had fun every single time I played it, and that, in my opinion, is a mark of an excellent game. If I'm dying off, literally, but I'm still laughing and joking and having a blast, well, then I know I've got a winner on my hands. So there you go. That is End of the Line. If you have any questions about the game, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.